What's happening, guys? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, and I'm delighted to be joined by my father, Laurie, from AFTV, DR Sports, and of course, the Boxing Lowdown. We are here to present the big fight preview for, let me just say, a fascinating matchup, man. And this whole week in general, it just really feels like Christmas to me.
Super Bowl week.
It really is for boxing fans, man. And I can't wait to delve into this fight here between Inoue and Stephen Fulton, taking place at super bantamweight. Unified belts will be on the line. I believe it is the WBC and the IBF, I believe, but two of the belts will be on the line either way. And it's just a fascinating matchup taking place in Tokyo, Japan, a battle of two unbeaten fighters. Just your initial thoughts when this fight was announced, man. Brilliant. Really looking forward to this.
Oh, absolutely. Just a minor correction. It's a WBC and a WBO, held by Stephen Fulton, super bantamweight. So in effect, Inoue will be going up in weight for this fight, which makes it even more intriguing. The fact that he's going up in weight. He's been an absolute killer, metaphorically speaking, at the lower weights. He's stepping up in weight to fight a very accomplished champion in Stephen Fulton. It's even more intriguing that the fight is taking place in Japan on Inoue's home turf, where he's regarded pretty much as a god there. So all the ingredients are there, man, for an absolutely brilliant fight. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Really am looking forward to it. And if we just start off with Inoue, man, this guy is phenomenal. For those of you that don't know, consensus top 3 pound for pound fighter Inoue. You're not having him?
Nah, not really.
Not top 3?
Well,
go on.
I think what it is for me is if he wins this fight, then yeah. But previous to that, I think the resumes. Who's the best fighter he's fought? Nonito Donaire. A 37-year-old Nonito Donaire has been defensive. I mean, you can't argue with his accomplishments.
Unbelievable.
But what I would say, in order for you to be catapulted into that top 3 pound for pound, your resume has got to be like, I've got to look at that resume and see killers on there as well.
Well, let's look at it. I mean, he's free weight world champion, former undisputed champion in the weight below. He's dispatching of his opponents with, brilliant ferocity and power. And it's not just, wild power where he's just swinging around.
No.
He's setting up his shots. It comes with timing, precision. They call him the monster for a reason, right? Now,
absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people, maybe not yourself, but a lot of people do have him at least in the top 5 of the pound for pound rankings now at Inoue. And if he was to win against Stephen Fulton on Tuesday, then who is another unbelievable fighter, then that surely does catapult him up into that argument. Whereas you can say maybe he could be one of the best fighters.
It might depend on the fashion of the win. So if he goes in there and blows out Fulton, then yeah, fair enough, I would say that. But I mean, if you're looking at his resume now, I mean, what's the best name on his record? You would have to say would be Nonito Donaire. And let's face it, Nonito Donaire is if I say he's in the twilight of his career, I'm actually being kind. He's 37 years old, which for the lighter weights is seen as somewhat ancient, isn't it? And the first fight with Donaire, he won on points. It was a well-contested fight. Fair enough. Second fight, he kind of blew Donaire away. So listen, man, this guy's seriously talented. But as far as me to put, you know what I'm like, man. I'm a bit fussy. I'm a bit picky when it comes to pound for pound. I've got to see those names on your record. That being said, it's not his fault that he's not
got to beat who's put in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't argue with that either. But certainly if he wins this fight and wins it well, then, he's got to be escalating those pound for pound, mythical pound for pound rankings.
Well, how does he match up against Stephen Fulton? Because some will say going into this fight that Stephen Fulton, who is an incredibly talented fighter in his own right, as we said, unified champion at super bantamweight, has some very credible wins on his record, including Figueroa, including Roman.
Angelo Leo.
Yeah, Angelo Leo as well. So this is a tall order for Inoue, even for someone as good as him, because Fulton presents a challenge for me that maybe Inoue hasn't really experienced yet. He can be slick, Fulton. He's got good fundamentals, great boxing ability, he's speed, he's quick, he uses angles. Has Inoue, would you say, really come across a fighter like Stephen Fulton in his career so far?
Definitely not. I mean, you look at his previous 3 opponents, Paul Butler. This is Inoue I'm talking about. So he pretty much had his way with a Paul Butler that, let's face it, didn't show a lot of ambition. Paul Butler's a good fighter, by the way, from Britain, but never boxed anyone like Inoue, and it showed. He was on the back foot from the start, didn't really seem to want to get too close, and you know what I mean, didn't engage. And I hasten to use the word running, but let's face it, it was a rear guard action for pretty much the whole fight.
Yeah.
Nanita Denier, we said already, great fighter, but you know, advanced years. Looking down his record, Jason Maloney, Payanu, these guys are good fighters, but they're not what I would call stellar opposition. Now, if you look at someone like Fulton, he is the real deal.
If I jump in there, you do remember, obviously, that some of those names you reeled off were part of that World Boxing Super Series tournament that Inoue had stepped up in weight to compete in and won it.
Yeah.
And he beat whoever was put in front of him, right?
Yeah, you make the point, you can only beat who's put in front of you, and so far he's done that, and he's done that very well. But what I would say is that Stephen Fulton, to me, is a step up from all those guys. Stephen Fulton, champion in his own right, very good champion, very talented. Like you said, he's got all the fundamentals, good footwork, good hand speed, well skilled, good ring generalship. The only slight thing I would say about Stephen Fulton is that he's not recognised as a puncher. And I think that could be crucial in this fight, because if you got a guy like Inoue in front of you and he doesn't respect your punching power, if you think about it, it kind of makes his job a little bit easier, doesn't it? Because he's not going to really fear too much about coming in for the kill. But if you listen to Fulton supporters and Fulton himself, he will say that he's hurt everybody he's been in there with, and that Inoue won't be able to just walk in recklessly with him. So I guess we'll find out on the night.
Here is my slight concern for Stephen Fulton. And, you know, I did say, obviously, with Inoue that has he faced anybody like Fulton? Has Fulton faced anybody like now Inoue, who is a monster puncher, 88% knockout ratio, by the way, dispatches of his opponents to the body, to the head, can use both hands. What I'm worried about with Fulton is his willingness to engage at times. I've seen him in previous fights where he's not too shy of going in there and mixing it up if he has to. We know he's got the ability to box on the back foot, and I can imagine that his corner and his team and everybody else will be telling him, don't engage with now Inoue if you don't need to. Would you say that is going to be the game plan for Stephen Fulton would be to avoid those confrontation mix-ups between the two, or do you think that he should, you know, step in and mix up when he should, and also box, do a bit of both? What I'm saying.
Yeah, I think what you just said there, the latter. He's got to mix it up. You can't go in there and just be reckless to the point of saying, yeah, I'm going to go in there and engage with him. He's got to feel him out a little bit. He's got to, you know, box and be smart, be defensively responsible. But at the same time, he's got to show a level of aggression as well, because let's be honest, he can't do what Butler did, which is just to be on the back foot and
not gonna work.
Think you're going to steal a decision. That's not going to happen, especially in a fight of this magnitude in Inoue's backyard. That is definitely not going to happen. And I'm pretty sure Fulton won't want to win like that. He's a champion himself. He's going to want to go out there and try and assert himself. He's physically the bigger, and we think the stronger man. He's got to try and impose those physicalities on Inoue. He's got to show that he can take a punch.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, man, you're not going to go in there with someone like Inoue and not get cracked. You're going to get hit, because Inoue, as you said, Daryl, he's not just a big puncher. He can box as well. He can set up those shots. He's very good to the body. He's got a good jab. He's got a very good right hand. Listen, he's got pretty much all the attributes you need to be a special champion. You know what I mean? He's not just a brawler. In fact, he's not a brawler. He's a box puncher.
He sets his shots up.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that makes this fight so intriguing, that the two of them are skilled operatives. So yeah, man, I mean, I think Fulton, if I'm being honest, based on what I've seen, and I've seen quite a few of both of their fights, I would say that he's probably the more accomplished boxer.
Yeah.
He's got the slightly better footwork. He's got the slightly better combinations. I think he can do a little bit more in terms of sheer boxing skill. That's not to say that Inoue is not skilled himself. Far from it. He's very skilled. But I just think that Fulton has the edge in terms of boxing skill. I also think he's the bigger man. I believe he will be the stronger man on the night. So he does have certain advantages. And if he can take... I think this fight is going to come down to whether
he can take a shot,
or how much he deals with taking the power. I mean, I've seen him in there with Figueroa. Brandon Figueroa is a big guy, throws a lot of punches, and he did catch Fulton quite square on at times. Seemed to hurt him a couple of times in that fight. But credit to Fulton, man. He fought through it. He's tough. He's a Philly guy.
Yeah,
Philly fighter. They pride themselves on being tough. Lots of hard sparring out there. And so he will be thinking that even if I get hit, I'll be able to take it and put it on Inoue. So
here's my question for you. Deontay Wilder, Artur Beterbiev, now at Inoue, probably three of the most destructive punches in boxing today.
That's a good point.
Where does Inoue rank it in that top three for you? I mean, does he 88% knockout ratio, like I said, and it's going to be a tall order.
Well, Beterbiev is 100%.
100% knockout, yeah, he is, yeah.
But
indeed.
to be fair, though, I don't think Beterbiev is in his prime the way Inoue is. You know, I think that crucially could be the difference.
But I think it just by putting his name amongst those other names, just goes to show how much of a puncher he is now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real threat. But listen, I'd say this. I mean, first of all, it was nice to see Stephen Fulton getting a good welcome over there in Japan. He arrived over there in Tokyo. I'm not sure if you saw the images when he was at the airport, but he was greeted by a lot of the fans out there, which was good to see.
That's the Japanese culture for you. It's quite respectful.
Yeah, they seem to have taken to him quite well.
Yeah.
But at the press conference, has he got into Inoue's head a little bit with, you know, the trainer? I'm not sure if you saw it, but the trainer came out. And, you know, dare I say, throw out some accusations about the hand wraps for Inoue, about how they wrap the hands and, you know, that if they'll be willing to pull Fulton out of it if there was any dodginess with the hand wraps. Now, how much do you take seriously those claims? Are you just looking at it as a bit of gamesmanship, or do you think that there is a real concern on Stephen Fulton's end about Inoue and the wraps? Because to make it clear, there's been no, like, he hasn't been accused of it before, or he hasn't had these allegations leveraged at him. So, you know, what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? I say fair play to Stephen Fulton's trainers and his team for highlighting it, because the process that he's referring to is whereby Inoue wraps his hands by putting tape on the hand first, and then putting gauze, and then an extra layer of tape, and then more gauze. And they call that stacking or double stacking, which apparently is illegal. I don't know too much. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on it, but it would appear that in Japan and some commissions, because let's face it, Inoue has fought in America before and presumably used the same wrapping procedure, and it was passed. But a lot of people, I saw an interview with Tim Bradley, former world champion, Hall of Famer, now good commentator. He's saying that the practice is illegal. So let's be honest, let's be fair, yeah? If it is illegal and...
But it's not illegal in Japan, which is what he said.
Well, Tim Bradley seemed to be suggesting it should be illegal throughout, universally, globally. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I wouldn't know one way or the other, to be honest. But I think it is perfectly fair for Stephen Fulton's team to highlight it.
Is there a due diligence on Stephen Fulton's team to, you know, if that really was a concern, for them to not look into this before they accepted the terms and conditions of this contract to travel out to Japan and take on now Inoue, who is pretty much a superstar in his hometown? Should they have done their due diligence before, or, like I said, is this just gamesmanship from Fulton's camp to try and get into the head of Inoue?
I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on there as well. Like you suggested, the fact that they've chosen to raise this a couple of days before the fight is definitely a tactic, I think, to get inside the head of Inoue and his team, make them second guess themselves a little bit, and maybe wind Inoue up, maybe get him a little mad. And it does appear to have worked to some degree, because if you look at the riposte coming out of Inoue's camp from Inoue himself, he seemed quite angry, didn't he?
He did.
Quite upset that he's been...
Did you see his tweet?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, and if you saw the weigh-in, you saw that. I've not seen Inoue look like that before. You know what I mean? So it could be that it's worked.
Yeah.
And listen, if I'm the boxer, I'm putting myself in Fulton's shoes now. That's how I want my corner to be. You want them to be on it, that they notice things like that, and that they bring it up. That they're not frightened to bring this up and air it out. And if there is an issue, let it get resolved before the fight.
They say there's two ways to try and get into the mind of your opponent. I'm not sure which way you prefer, but there's one way, which is, I guess, what the Fulton camp are doing, which is to rile your opponent up and get him angry, which appears to have happened with Inoue's team with these allegations, or do you kind of lull them to sleep? You know, be friendly with them and kind of lead them into the fight where they're just maybe not as aggressive as they normally would have been. Is there a preference for you in terms of if you was the trainer or the manager of a fight, would you prefer to go down this route to get into a fighter's head? Just curious, just what is your opinion?
Yeah, I would go for the former. Listen, man, this is what they say is guerrilla warfare. As my man, what's the guy's name? Was it Crocodile?
Yeah,
so guerrilla warfare, man. Yeah. This is war. It's the art of war. And if you can get inside your opponent's head, do it. I mean, let's be honest. Inoue is a champion. He's experienced. He's been there. So I don't think you'd be too affected. But if you can score a little psychological advantage here and there, why not?
Well, the only time I've seen now Inoue really in any sort of difficulty was that first Nonito Donaire fight, which he did win on points. But I did see, the aura and the invincibility of Inoue kind of slip a little bit in that fight. But what a way to rectify it in the rematch, man. The way how he dispatched of Donaire, which probably what you would have thought he would have done the first time round, right? But
well, that's what most people was expecting. In fact, in that first fight, he did get hurt. I think he got his jaw broken or something like that, or some kind of injury.
So he battled,
and it was very competitive in a fight that a lot of people thought that he was just going to walk through Donaire, and he didn't. In the second fight, it was a lot more one-sided. He pretty much had his own way. But interestingly, talking of Nonito Donaire, he gave an interview recently where he said that he thinks that Fulton would win. Now, normally what happens with boxers, when they've been in with a guy that's beaten them twice, especially somebody that's knocked them out, they would tend to always go for the fighter. But interestingly, he's gone for Fulton.
Interesting, I didn't know.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And I also saw a couple of interviews with some other fighters. Most seem to be going for Inoue, but there are quite a few others that are going for Fulton. They said that he's the bigger man, he's the better boxer. It's going to come down to whether he can hold a shot, but if he can hold a shot well, then he will outbox Inoue. I do think he does have the better boxing skills from what I've seen. That's not to underestimate Inoue's boxing, because Inoue's boxing is different, but he definitely got ability. But I just think that Fulton is an all-round better boxer for me.
Well, this kind of segues into my next point here, keys to victory. You've kind of laid out the plan for Stephen Fulton, what he should do, I guess, and that is to confirm to outbox, but not be afraid to mix it up when required, but mainly use your skills, angles, your boxing ability, and try and frustrate Inoue. I guess, you're not really looking at the knockout. Don't look for the knockout in this situation for Fulton. Try and just outbox your way to a win here. What would you suggest are the other keys to victory that Stephen Fulton needs to apply to defeat now Inoue? Because what I will say is that we don't know, we haven't seen any of these fighters lose yet. So there isn't a blueprint as of now. So what does Fulton need to do? I guess the general consensus amongst most of us boxing fans is that he needs to box and move and, mix it up when required.
I think he needs to box. I think he needs to give Inoue angles. I think he needs to go to the body. He needs to try and make his size and strength, we think,
Is he that much bigger than Inoue?
He's not that much taller, but he is taller. He has a longer reach, I think about 2.5, 3 inches, which can make a difference. I think physically, when you see them up against each other, you see that Fulton is the bigger man. Yeah. Clearly, you can see that. And that was at the weigh-in, so they've got 24 hours to rehydrate. So I'm expecting Fulton to be clearly the bigger man. But obviously, being the bigger man doesn't always mean you're going to win. No. And we spoke about having a game plan, which is important. Well, what is it that Mike Tyson always says?
Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face.
Until they get hit. So it'll be interesting to see the first time that Inoue lands. Yeah. And you see that look register on Fulton's face. If he takes it and he's like, whatever, and he comes forward, or you don't see any visible signs of any real distress or whatever, then it could be a long night for Inoue. However, if Inoue lands, and the first time he lands, whether to the head or body, and you see Stephen Fulton take a backward step or not want to engage, that also could be a telling moment. But this is what makes this fight so intriguing, because it's that classic boxer versus puncher thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And just before we get into our predictions, now at Inoue's keys to victory here, is it just to be now at Inoue, go forward, let him feel your punching power early on, discourage your opponent, let him know that, this is you're in my country now, you haven't been on this, is different territory for you. So I'm going to make this as uncomfortable for you as possible. That's what now Inoue needs to do. Yeah. Aggression, but not reckless aggression.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's got to be aggressive behind the jab. He can't just walk in there and just disregard Fulton's power because he's going up in weight. So he has to be respectful. That being said, he's got to try and get inside, go to the body, slow Fulton down. Like I said, be aggressive, take it to him, and look to try and land your shots early.
Yeah.
In other words, make him respect you early. You know what I mean? Land that shot that he thinks, oh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As I said, the first time Inoue lands is going to be a real telling moment in this fight. If he lands clean and Fulton sucks it up and there's no visible effects, then as you said, it could be a long night for Inoue. It's not impossible that he would win on points, but you know what I'm saying? He's the puncher, so you can imagine if Fulton takes that first big shot from him and there's no visible signs of distress, he's going to think, you know what? This guy doesn't punch as hard as everybody told me, man. I'm even more confident now. On the other hand, if he can hurt Fulton or, keep him honest, then obviously it's a different time. So we'll see.
Let's get into it, man. Predictions. I'm gonna hold you to the fire here, man. I'll start. I'll give my prediction, and then I'm gonna ask for yours.
Sure.
So, for me, like I said, this is a classic boxer-puncher matchup, man. You've got one corner, Stephen Fulton, as we said, who will really need to apply his boxing skills to the best of his ability.
Absolutely.
I don't even think it would be that hostile in Japan. Like, looking from the welcome that he got, maybe, and from judging from Inoue's previous other fights, it doesn't appear to be that much of a hostile environment.
It's not. As I said before, the Japanese boxing crowd anyway.
It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, they're quite respectful. Don't get me wrong, they will be rooting for
cheering
Inoue.
for it, yeah, of course.
But it's not the same kind of rabid passion that you would get, say, in this country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's different. They're not going to be singing football songs and all that type of stuff. I'm not expecting it to be particularly hostile. So that might help Fulton in a way, to be honest. That might help him settle down a little bit. But we'll see.
We'll see, yeah. So, yeah, as I was alluding to, Fulton, obviously, we know what he needs to do. We know what Inoue needs to do. I just can't see past Inoue right now. And that's simply because he has home comforts being at home. I think that's a big advantage for him, being on home soil. We've seen him fight there before. I don't think the pressure will get to him like that. It's going to be a difficult matchup. And like most people have said, Fulton is probably something that Inoue hasn't seen before. He definitely isn't. But at the same time, I don't think Fulton has seen anyone like Inoue before. I just have to... I think that he will go through some rough moments in this fight. I reckon that Fulton will win a few rounds at least against Inoue. It could be one of them where Fulton's up, but Inoue lands a great shot on him, and then, that's the beginning of the end. I'm kind of picturing that scenario in my head. I just don't want to see Fulton mix it up with Inoue too much, where he's getting caught with shots, and then the advantage swings to now at Inoue, let's say. So I think this is a great fight, first of all, man. I really do. But if you're going to... I think both guys could win. But it's got, and another thing that we need to really talk about, which I'm sure you will allude to, is that Fulton is going to be hard for him to get a decision out there as well. So with that in mind, I have to favour now at Inoue on points.
No, you know what? I can't fault or disagree with too much what you said there. I kind of see the fight unfolding in a similar type of way. I see Fulton possibly getting off to a very good start, establishing the jab, using his feet, not disengaging, but not, not getting too stuck in too quickly, because I think that would be a mistake when you're in with a puncher. When you're in with a puncher, you're trying to draw his sting, wait for him to make mistakes and counter. So I think that's what Fulton will be looking to do, take a look at the guy. Vice versa with Inoue. I don't think Inoue is going to run in there and start letting shots go recklessly. He's not that type of fighter. Like I said, he's a box puncher. So I can see Fulton win in the early rounds. This is how I'm kind of seeing it unfold, and then what I see is that once Inoue has seen a little bit, he'll start to make a few adjustments. He'll try and go to the body. As Fulton slows down, which is inevitable, because no one can keep a a pace like that for 12 rounds, I would have thought, especially at this level. I think Inoue will start to come into it. I think he'll start to back Fulton up, and I think he'll start to land to the body and the head. And I think the middle rounds will be where this fight is won and lost. But I do see Inoue finishing strong, because I think Fulton will go out and probably exert himself to try and keep Inoue off him. I see Inoue closing the gap somewhat. Like I said, the middle rounds will be tightly contested. I think that the extra power of Inoue will start to tell round about the middle rounds, and then down the stretch, it's anyone's fight. I really do think so, because that's how well matched they are.
Yep.
But I do think that given the fact that he's at home, given the fact what you said, Daryl, about him in a close fight, let's be honest, man, we've seen it so many times in boxing. When a fighter's fighting at home, it's very hard to get a decision against him. I mean, I know really Fulton's a champion, so normally you would say that in order to take the belts off the champion, you have to rip it off him. I don't necessarily see that being the case in this fight, because Inoue is such a big star in Japan. They put the fight on, they're promoting the fight. So I think that is that factor won't play out quite as much. And I'm kind of leaning towards Inoue in a very closely contested fight. He may even get a knockdown here and there, or hurt Fulton. But I kind of see Inoue just edging it out, a 1-1-5, 1-1-3, something like that.
So you've got Inoue on points also.
I've got Inoue on points. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was to go the other way. Like I said, this fight is going to come down to how well Fulton can hold Inoue's power. If he can do that, then he's got a very good chance. If on the other hand he gets hurt every time Inoue lands clean, don't get me wrong, Fulton's a tough guy. As I said, he's a Philly fighter. He would have sparred big punchers. I mean, I've seen an interview with Jerome Ennis saying that he sparred him. They're both from Philly, obviously. He sparred Fulton several times, and he says, listen, man, the guy's chin will stand up to the test. So it's intriguing, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of the fights of the year.
For sure. And like, it's been a great year for boxing as a whole. And this fight right here just adds another one to the list of fantastic
fights. Yeah, absolutely. Heavyweights take note.
Yeah, they really do need to take
They need to take note, man.
That's another topic for another show.
It is.
Listen, man, it was great breaking down this fight with you, man. Really looking forward to it. Taking place, this fight will be Tuesday on Sky Sports, I believe it is. It'll be in the morning, wouldn't it?
It's afternoon? Japanese time, so I think the ring walks are expected about 11:30 our time.
Yeah.
I think the fight is due to start. I mean, I think in Japan they have one of these sort of elevated ring walks and
that'll take about
ring ceremonies. So that would probably take. So just after midday our time, they should be in the ring, gloved up, ready to go. We are covering the fight actually on DR Sports Boxing. So listen, man, tune in. It'll be myself, Nick, James, and Shane, and hopefully you, Daryl. You know what I mean? You're welcome.
Yeah, love to
come in, and we'll be all watching in keen anticipation in what I believe will be one of the fights. To me, this fight cannot miss. If you look at the two guys, the attributes that they have, and the intangibles surrounding this fight, it's got to be, even if it ends inside the distance, it will be a fight
while it lasts.
Absolutely. He can't miss, because like I said, Fulton, even though he's not a big puncher himself, he's got all the other attributes you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You want to see in a fighter. And Inoue, we've discussed. The power, that aura that he brings to the game, the fact as well that he's not just a brawler. You know, sometimes you get a fight and a guy's a puncher, a bit like Deontay Wilder, no disrespect to him, but let's be honest, man, he's overwhelmingly a puncher. His boxing skills are not that highly thought of. But Inoue, he does have boxing skill. He does have good footwork. He does have power. So put that together with the attributes that Fulton's got, it's a can't miss.
All sets it up for a fascinating showdown, man. Really looking forward to it.
Definitely.
You guys, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. How do you see this fight going? Who are you picking to win and why? And also let me know, what are the implications for the winner? If Inoue was to win, or if Fulton was to win, where do they rank in your top fighters in the world? Let us know. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. You got anything further to add before we go?
Just looking forward to it, man. And on that point that you just raised, I mean, I could see a trilogy.
You never know,
depending on how, because I don't think that either one of them are going to blow the other one out. I think it's going to be a very contested fight. It could be I mean, imagine if Fulton was to win, and then you get a rematch taking place in America. I mean, you know, that would be
the
great.
possibilities are endless. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, bring it on. I can't wait.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next Big Fight preview show. Take care for now.